how I just didn't seem to care about my looks because I was like, well, my brand speaks for itself. And she's like, no, it doesn't. You actually don't match the outside like the inside. You are kind of a badass on the inside. Why don't you look that way on the outside? So she cut my hair off and just started getting shorter and shorter. But that was really just like a piece of the puzzle that was missing. But I will tell you, a lot of people, they're not interested in looking at the truth of it. So they can't find the root of the problem because they're not willing to see the truth of what's going on, or they're blaming someone else for it. When in reality, the only way we can heal is if we look at the truth of what we're doing. It's a powerful thing to work for yourself, but I used to think everyone should be an entrepreneur. Everyone should work for themselves. And then I was like, whoa, no, not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur, because I was just from that. So I didn't think anything different, but everyone's built differently. And I need people who want to work for me. So I don't want them to be entrepreneurs, but I want them to be entrepreneurial.
Welcome back to another episode of The Founder's Hustle, where every business has a backstory, and we're just here to share it. Today's guest is Melanie Spring, who is a brand strategist turned brand muse. She helps entrepreneurs, executives, and high-level achievers align who they are and how they show up on stage, in business, and in life. Through her Speak with Confidence program, corporate workshops, and retreats, she empowers people to lead authentically and step into their next chapter. So let's welcome Melanie Spring to the show. What's the backstory that led you to become a brand strategist and the speaker who you are today?
Well, I've always been fascinated by communication and understanding why people do the things that they do and how they communicate with each other. So I have a degree in organizational communications and English. And as I was stepping into my career, I realized that branding is really just making sure that every single thing is the same. So whether it's a personal brand or a business brand, it doesn't really matter. It means that we get a chance to look at all aspects of who we are and what we stand for and why we're here. And then as we move into like who we really are, it allows us to really see like the brand of us, whether it's a logo or marketing materials or a website for businesses or even personal, or even how we speak, how we dress, how we interact with people, and how we talk. And so that really led into speaking because I realized I didn't want to stay in brand strategy anymore. I just kind of got burned out on it. And I had become a full-time speaker. And other people started coming to me going, you don't sound like a speaker though. How do you not sound like a speaker? I want to learn from you. How do I learn from you? And I sort of accidentally fell into training people, but it was really the same thing I was doing in my branding agency, moving into the speaker space. It was helping people show up fully and authentically as themselves.
When did this journey begin? I feel like I saw photos of you at a pretty early stage in your career, taking center stage and starting with these presentations as a brand strategist.
Yeah, I started my business in 2009. So I was 28 years old and I had long hair halfway down my back, and just I look like a librarian more than anything. And I was really inside felt like I was my whole self, but on the outside I didn't match. And so my aunt actually told me when I was 32 that the reason I kept getting asked if I was doing a paper for school at networking events was because of my haircut and how I just didn't seem to care about my looks, because I was like, well, my brand speaks for itself. And she's like, no, it doesn't. You actually don't match the outside like the inside. You are kind of a badass on the inside. Why don't you look that way on the outside? So she cut my hair off and just started getting shorter and shorter. But that was really just like a piece of the puzzle that was missing. So I really stepped into this speaking. I mean, it's been 16 years since I started speaking, but I was terrified at the beginning. Like I had anxiety. I wouldn't know what to do and how to do it. So I think that really helped me start training other people, because there was so much fear in it for me that it allowed me to really sit with people who are also scared of it.
So just hearing your story truly is inspiring. Just know it, because I look at you and go, well, she's always been a good speaker, but it sounds like you had to grow into it. So what was your first step to grow into becoming comfortable?
Well, I had a speaker coach. When I hired her, she was a lady at my church who played the recorder in the band at my church. And she was a 4-time Emmy-winning news reporter. And so she started training speakers. And I asked her, would you be willing to come help me with this talk? I got hired at a credit union to do local credit union to do a workshop on branding. And she's like, well, you can't even say your name at church in front of the group when you know everyone in the crowd. How in the world are you going to get on stage to speak? So she thought she had a big, huge problem on her hands. But when she realized that I knew my content, it was just the fear of having to get up and speak. She taught me one thing that really changed the way that I thought about speaking. And it's what I also teach now, which is, can you pretend you're talking to one person over coffee when you get up there? Because the way that you talk to that one person is how you can talk on stage, just amplified. So it helped me really go, oh, I'm just having a conversation over coffee. I'm not speaking. I don't have to get them to do something or get them to like me. I just have to talk to them like it's one person. And that just completely shifted everything. I mean, the nerves were still there, but over time and a lot of practice and also a lot of healing, I was able to really step into, it's going to be okay. I don't have to worry about this. I can do this because I can talk to someone at coffee.
Have you escaped or overcome that fear of speaking? When you get on stage today, do you have any remnants of heart palpitations or nervousness, or is that all behind you?
No, I was doing between 50 and 200 speaking gigs a year. So I would give up to 200 talks a year sometimes. And sometimes it was 3 talks at one conference. So doesn't have to be 300 separate days. But what I realized was the practice of it and the embodiment of it were the 2 pieces that needed to happen. And a lot of people like to get up there and give a different talk each time, or oh, well, so-and-so wants me to talk about this. And the problem with that is that we don't get a chance to fully embody the talk that we need to be giving if we keep giving different talks all the time. Sure, we can morph them, but each of us should have some sort of signature talk to give. And that's what caused me to go, oh, I could just give this again and again and again and again. And the more I did it, the more I learned I could intuitively move with it. But I will tell you, the biggest thing that taught me that I don't have to be anxious is about 6 years ago, I started doing really deep healing work. And I found the root of my anxiety, and I was able to pull it out and shift it and move that out of my body so that I could walk out on stage and go, oh, I'm just here now. I can be in my system and I can be connected to my body, my mind, and my soul, and be able to fully feel aligned, knowing that I have to give this talk and I don't care what people think about me.
That's fantastic. Do you feel like being able to extract the root of the cause is something that you have been able to do as you've gotten older? Or do you feel that people in their 20s or beginning managers, leaders, entrepreneurs, even if they're young, can they extract that as well? Or is this just part of the journey of life?
I just hosted a women's healing weekend at my house. I call it a women's healing slumber party. And this weekend, there was a 27-year-old here who was able to fully pull the root out of what was going on. And she had gone to multiple other places to try to heal this stuff, even becoming a yoga instructor. And she just couldn't get to the root of it. And then we were able to just pull it all out. And it doesn't matter what age you are. I feel like when you're ready for it, you're ready for it. But I will tell you, a lot of people, they're not interested in looking at the truth of it. So they can't find the root of the problem because they're not willing to see the truth of what's going on, or they're blaming someone else for it. When in reality, the only way we can heal is if we look at the truth of what we're doing or what's continuing or why are we keep doing this. Sure, somebody might have done something at one point, but what are we still doing as adults to take responsibility for our own healing?
In looking at your website, and reading all of the things that you offer and do, my first inclination of who you are, your superpower to me is somebody who can literally extract and expand the human experience, finding out your true, authentic self. Yep. I don't know if that comes naturally to you or not, but I just read about you online and I'm just like, wow. There's very few people that I have come across in my life that are able to find people at their true core and help them understand who they are. So I think that, to me, is a superpower that maybe one of many that you have.
Yeah, well, and like I said before, it was the being able to see someone as their true selves. And the goal is that I can help them walk along the path to finding out who that is. So if I can see it, I can help someone walk the path. But if they're not interested in walking it, I can't help them. So it's the embodiment of who we are and how we show up in the world, and what's the thing we can do in order to fully step into our whole selves. And so that is a gift for me to be able, and I think it's an innate gift of mine that I've been just honing over the years and getting better and better at. I used to tell people what I saw, and I found out that that's doing them a big disservice. So that they're like, oh, but you see that, so I just need to be that. And in reality, I can just help them take each step and walk through it by themselves.
So you describe yourself as entrepreneurial by birth. Tell us what you mean by that, and how did those instincts first show up with you?
So I'm from a very long line. Both sides of my family are entrepreneurs. So there's not one person on either side of my family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, siblings, that have a job. All of them work for themselves. So when I graduated college, I was the first in my whole family, both sides, to graduate college. And my dad looked at me. He might be the only dad in the world who said, "You got a job? Why would you get a job? Why don't you just work for yourself?" And I'm like, who says that to your daughter who just graduated? I'm like, why did I go to college then? What was the point of that? And what I learned was, and now I look back on it, it's more funny than anything, because just a few years later, I think it was 6 years after being in corporate spaces, I learned that I had to go through those corporate spaces in order to learn what I needed to in order to run my own company, instead of failing at it over and over and over again. And so it helped me really launch the branding agency that I had, and then the speaker training that I do, and the work that I do now with private clients. And it's a powerful thing to work for yourself. But I used to think everyone should be an entrepreneur. Everyone should work for themselves. And then I was like, whoa, 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 no, not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur, because I was just from that. So I didn't think anything different. But everyone's built differently. And I need people who want to work for me. So I don't want them to be entrepreneurs, but I want them to be entrepreneurial. I want them to have that quick start and that ability to keep going and take responsibility for their stuff.
You just mentioned something that brought up, okay, so there's a difference. Being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. And it's very unique, the skills or the mindset of an entrepreneur. What would you say? You work with entrepreneurs and CEOs and executive leaders day in and day out. What characteristics of a true entrepreneur do you see time and time again that just resonates with who they are as an entrepreneur? Like what is that?
Well, I've been teaching this for years because I believe even in the corporate space that every person on the team has to have some sort of entrepreneurial spirit, because otherwise there's only one leader and a whole bunch of followers. And so as I hire people, or even as I work with people, the CEOs and the executives that I work with, or the entrepreneurs that I work with, I've learned that some people are just built to dream really, really big and to think bigger and to also figure out how to solve problems, because problem solving isn't something that's innate for everybody. It needs to be something that comes to you more naturally, or it's something you can learn as well, but it's something that allows you to have an edge that's different from everyone else. So even in my branding agency, people used to come to me and they're like, "Hey, I run a financial services firm, but do you see that financial services firm over there? I want to look like them." And I'm like, "Why do you want to do that? Why don't you want to look like you?" And so it's anytime someone says that, I'm like, are you really an entrepreneur? Are you really willing to have that edge and make that difference and be different? Because it's not about necessarily even being different, but it's being you. And so everyone is made differently, but how can we make sure that the essence of who you are shows up in everything that you're doing? And so now I'm helping transition, exiting founders transition into the void after they sell, retire, or exit. And a lot of those people are the ones that are like, okay, but what do I do now besides drive Uber or bag groceries? I want to do something with my life other than golf and fish and whatever. And what I've learned is that they have to reignite that entrepreneurial spirit in themselves, because they've done something for 20 or 30 years and they're kind of fed up with it. I felt at my branding agency. And so being able to really get that spark restarted and going, oh, I do have good ideas and I do have things I want to execute on. And it feels like this is the thing I'm here to do. So it's really following your calling, I think, is the entrepreneurial piece of it.
I mean, number one, you started off as a brand strategist, then you pivoted from there and took on teaching people how to become better speakers. But now you're doing, you encompass a lot between the retreats and different, you do a lot of keynote speeches, but maybe give a brief overview of everything that you're offering and the aspects that you enjoy doing the most with your company.
So everything I do centers around embodiment. like anything that I'm working on with anybody centers around embodiment. So when it comes to the speaking that I do, I talk about how you can speak with confidence and that you can have this life after your business, or like, who are you without your business? Like, what's the embodiment of you? So I do that with exiting founders. Like, what's the next step for you and how can you embody the thing you want to do? I do that with speakers, helping them really step into their confidence and show up on stage differently. So it's not even speaker training as much as it is like you stepping into yourself through your talk. And then with the private work that I do for the healing work, a lot of that is like clearing out all the clutter so that you can step into yourself. So we do women's retreats, couples retreats, and my husband runs men's retreats.
Ah, fantastic. Okay, so with your Speak with Confidence program, what's the biggest mindset or brand mistake that you see people make when they try to step into a thought leadership or public speaking role?
Oh my goodness, I could list a whole bunch of these. The biggest one I think would be copying other people and having that, like, everybody has the same talk. I've been to so many conferences, and if I hear one more talk about following your life's compass, I was like, ugh, kill me. Can we just talk about something else? But it's being able to say, like, a lot of people like to say, oh, well, I'm an expert at X, Y, and Z, when in reality, they've read enough books or they've done enough work on it, but they haven't fully embodied it. And that's the problem I find is people can say a lot of words, but if you're not the embodiment of the thing you're talking about, like, let's say that I have people come to my house all the time. I do a lot of healing work. People come to my house, even for private retreats. And what they've told me is, you actually do all the stuff you're telling me to do. You're not just telling me to do those things. You're actually doing those things. Like, I'm working out every day. I'm doing my morning pages every morning. I have a slow life, not like someone like, gotta get all these things done while I'm teaching someone to slow down. But it's being able to embody that. Like, I live in a vacation town. I live on vacation, which most people wait until they're retired to do. And I'm doing that work now so that I can do that. And I think that's the biggest thing most of us can do is say, this is the work that I'm an expert at, and I'm embodying that work. I'm not just saying you should do it.
So for you to be able to extract all the information and help people understand who they are so they can become better leaders, people, entrepreneurs, whatever they want to be, is that a training that you went through, or is that something, I mean, again, it kind of is part of who you are, is your superpower, but did you have to get a training in order to really hone in on that, or is this just through life experiences?
I like to tell people that my husband is really book smart and I'm really street smart. And so a lot of the work that I've done a lot of training in different things. There's a lot of like executive presence and executive leadership. And I worked in Georgetown, I did a course on executive brand and being able to look at that bigger picture. But most of the work that I've done is from boots on the ground, putting the work in and learning so much about so many different types of people, and then taking that all into, I have this ability to drop into someone's essence. Like, I can become that, like, take on the embodiment of that person to understand how can I help them do it. So it's not just me going, oh, well, here's the structure of it and this is how you do it. I'm able to really intuitively read into, actually, when you move your hands like that, it looks kind of weird. Can you just do it this way? Maybe we can like reshape it so it just feels more you. So I'm really just helping them amplify themselves rather than trying to make them more me. And even people are like, could you just do my talk for me? Like, that was really good. I'd rather just you do that. But at the same time, it's because I'm trying to show them how they can move their body and say the words they need to say and express themselves fully as themselves. So a lot of it has to do with I've worked with hundreds of people to do this and spoken to thousands of people to do this, and heard a lot of really amazing stories, and I have a really good memory. So less books, more actual boots on the ground work.
Well, and you work with a lot of people in transition, founders, executives, and people that are entering, as we say, the second act, if you will. But what mindset shift is essential in that process?
They have to be open to seeing the truth for themselves. There's a lot of people who come to me who say, I really want to get from here to here. And I'm like, okay, are you willing to kind of let me look in your stuff and see what's there and then show you what I'm seeing? And some people are like, ooh, that sounds really scary. I remember even me with my own mentor 6 years ago, she told me we were going to get my briefcase of all my stuff and we were going to rifle through it together. We were going to dump it all out and then put it all back together in a cleaner way. And I was like, you mean you're going to like look inside me? Like, that sounds really scary. But because I was willing to do that, I'm able to help other people do that. And so I've learned that we teach what we need to learn the most. Like, I needed to learn how to do this. I needed to understand how to fully authentically be me so I can embody that. Same with my speaking. I had to learn how to embody that. But we can only help people to the level we've grown. So if I'm able to really do this work for myself, I can help other people do the same.
That's very interesting. I like that. So from your perspective, how can a founder tell when their business is ready to scale?
Well, a lot of the scaling work, I help people usually at the point that they've scaled to the point that they want to sell. So
Okay.
the work that I'm usually doing is helping them get rid of the company that they've scaled. So it's usually that they get to a point where they've realized that it's something they want to exit or they want to move forward from, or they want to sell to one of their family members, or they found people who want to buy it. But the scaling piece of this work is that they need to pull themselves out of it. So many founders tend to be the brand, which is a problem. Because once they want to sell, are they going to go with it, or are they going to stay? Or are they going to leave? And so being able to find the people who can replace themselves, because that's just a lot of ego. Like, if you really think that you're the only one who could do this, that's a problem. Because there are other people who could do this probably better than you. And so being able to start replacing yourself by putting a president in place and making sure that they can be running the company while you take some time to let them do that and really guide them, but help make sure that they're the ones who can take it and keep going with it. Then you can actually exit and start doing the work you want to be doing. Because a lot of founders find that they started something 20 or 30 years ago, but they've outgrown the company and they're not really necessarily wanting to do 80 hours a week anymore. They want to start going on vacation or doing something that's more of a calling rather than okay, I built this to a certain point, I make a lot of money, but now what?
What's one of the biggest mistakes that you personally have made as an entrepreneur or leader, and what lessons have come from that?
Oh, I made so many of them. I think the biggest one I did was I didn't realize that if I had known about human design earlier, I probably would have changed how I built the company that I first built. And I probably would have ended up selling it or being able to put someone else in place to run that company, because I basically built myself a job. My first company, I had it for 8 years, and 5 years in, I realized there was a problem because I didn't want to keep going. And I just had a dumpster fire in my inbox, and it just wasn't feeling like my thing anymore. It felt like I just was working 80 to 90 hours a week just for the sake of doing that to pay other people. And that wasn't what I wanted to do. And it was super successful. But over time, I just burned myself out and just quietly started exiting rather than actually trying to continue it. And so I probably would have looked back at that and gone, I should have put people in place to be able to take this over and run it. So it wasn't me. And at the end of the day, I realized that human design helped me understand that I'm a manifester. And as a manifester, with my cycle, I have a 5-year cycle. If I look back at the last 16 years of business, every 5 years, my system kind of shifts into a different space. And what I learned is manifestors tend to become experts in their field and then get really bored with the thing that they're doing. So being able to set myself up now, knowing even the Speak with Confidence training I'm doing, I'm already starting to put an entertainer in place. 15-time award-winning entertainer to help me train these speakers. I've got a vocal coach who's helping me train these speakers. I have all these resources for people who want to write books, just to be able to add all these resources to this course so I'm not having to, a year or two from now, be the person who's running every single bit of it. I can hand it off to other people to run that, and they can get clients from it while I'm working on the things I want to be doing, which is private work and really going deep in a mastermind with people so I can have my hands on people and actually work with them.
And you clearly can tell that not only are you good at it, but you're very passionate at it as well.
Yeah.
So going back to your younger self, your 28-year-old self, and you set out as a brand strategist, how did you go about building your clientele and getting your first gigs?
So the funny story behind this is that my boss, when I was 28, said, "Hi, what would you do if I couldn't pay you anymore?" And he said, and I said, "I'd work for myself." And he goes, "Great, you have 30 days. And so what I asked him was, okay, I'm going to start a branding agency, but I want you to give me all of your clients, because they were working with me anyway. So I had built his brand for him. And I was like, I'll give you 20% of everything that you send to me. And he's like, done, easy. So I was able to start getting clients immediately by just taking over some of the ones he had. But over time, I realized that it was kind of a I didn't like doing marketing like everyone else. I've never liked doing anything like everyone else. And my first agency was called Cicerina, which was named for my imaginary friend when I was 3. And so I decided to start doing really random stuff to get people to know about us. And so I worked on, I think I hosted 100 events in the first 5 years of my business, where I would do happy hours on roof decks of local businesses, and I would get people together to talk about Twitter, this new thing that had just come out. And we were all getting together to talk about, what do you tweet about? Rather than, hi, what do you do? What do you do? That kind of thing. And so I would bring the introverts and extroverts together and have them, like, I would hook people up like, hey, do you know anyone? Oh, let me introduce you to so-and-so, and here you go. And then get people to have conversations about, like, what are you tweeting about? Which was an interesting topic at the time. So we called it DC Tweet Up when we did that. And then I started doing these Wednesday morning at 8:30. You could come to my office and I would give you coffee, sometimes donuts or bagels or something. And you could ask me literally anything you wanted about marketing, branding, or social media. And so I would get tons of clients out of it because people would be like, what is this thing? And what is she talking about? Does she really know what she's doing? And they'd come sit in my conference room, ask me anything, and then they'd turn into a client. Or they'd at least know about us and then later hire us. So it was nice to have those spaces for people to be able to meet in real life because everything was going so virtual that being able to bring people into my office to let them know we were legit was key.
Yeah, yeah. So are you spotting, as you're transitioning through your own little self journey every 5 years and building upon what you have going right now, are you spotting any trends, particularly with AI and how that's playing along or possibly, I don't want to say hurting, but maybe colliding with some aspects of business?
I think the biggest thing we're not doing is using our intuition. And I'm noticing that with speakers. I'm noticing that in branding. I'm noticing that where like a lot of people are deferring to AI rather than partnering with it. And that's going to be a much, much, much bigger problem in the future. I think AI is so incredible. I use Cloud to help me with writing, but I write my entire thing and ask it to help me edit, and like I would a person. Like if I asked my husband or if I asked my coworkers, say, hey, can you just read through this and make sure this makes sense? They would probably make edits for me. And that's all it's doing is editing that content for me as if it's mine. And I'm always even going through and editing it again after I get any of that stuff back. But one of the things that I noticed is some people are having AI write their talk for them. Or, hey, can you create a logo for me? And then I had a friend do this the other day, and the way that she created the logo, she's like, I think it's beautiful. And I was like, yes, and you can't print that on a t-shirt. And if you put that on a sign, no one's gonna be able to read it because it's so intricately detailed. So it's the content that the brand strategist would tell you, but AI is not gonna say that to you because it's gonna people please you. It's gonna get you to want to be happy about the fact that it just did something wonderful for you, and aren't you happy with it? So being able to look at AI and aligning, which I call the original AI, aligned intuition. So if we can have our aligned intuition, which is our body, mind, soul connection, and like full alignment in ourselves, we can find our intuition to partner with artificial intelligence because the two together can be powerful. But when we defer to the opposite one, it's not necessarily super helpful. So that's the big trend that I'm seeing these days.
Interesting. So in your work with the entrepreneurs and owners and leaders that you're working with, what are some of the fears that you're seeing, or what are some of the struggles that entrepreneurs are facing these days, yourself included?
I think right now the financial stuff is a big struggle for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are scared, and a lot of people are kind of ratcheting down the hatches like, oh, how do we make sure that we don't accidentally blow everything up? But it's also the investment in ourselves. And I think the ability for us, because the greatest investment that any person can make is in themselves. And so as much as you might invest in the stock market, or you might invest in housing, or you might invest in a company, if you can invest in yourself, that's going to be the most powerful investment to make. And a lot of leaders are starting to finally realize that that's true. And so they're seeing that having someone walk alongside them and not having to do things alone is actually helpful. But we've been trained, like, you have to do stuff by yourself and you have to power through and you have to push, when actually slowing down is probably one of the most helpful things we can be doing. Slowing down and finding stillness. That's one of the biggest things that these women found this weekend was they'd been going, I can do it. And then they slow down and they're like, oh, there's so much more in here now. What is that? So that's what I'm noticing these days.
As it relates to advice, if you're looking at a brand new entrepreneur comes to you, based on the lessons you've learned through your journey, what would you share with your younger self or with a budding entrepreneur or a brand new manager or leader? What advice would you give them?
I would say that the most important part of running a business is being willing to look at the truth of who you are and seeing your patterns. And so all of us have patterns. We all have these things that we do, just this is how I am. This is how I'm built. This is what I do. And in reality, a lot of that stuff is based in trauma or fear or anxiety. And a lot of those things can be easily shifted if we're willing to look at them. So I would say if I could go back to my younger self, I would slow down a lot. I would stop being worried about when's the next client coming and how is this going to work. And now I'm really sitting, and this has been my year of surrender. So tender surrender, actually, which I'm not like just throwing my hands in the air like I surrender, but like I'm really trying to be gentle about it. And one of the things I'm learning this year is that the universe has so much more planned for me. And it can be God, the universe, source, your higher self, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It has so much more planned for me than I have for myself. And when I force and push and go and do, I don't find any of it. But even this weekend, that was the biggest thing that showed up for me even this weekend was I had this plan, like I have this sound bath lady who's going to come in and I'm so excited about it. And then things didn't work out that way. But because of that, we were able to do something else that shifted things in such a bigger way. And I met this random lady because she invited us into her garden because we went to go see this 900-year-old tree instead. And now I'm going to have tea with Tony under her tree. And I was so excited about it. But I was like, oh, this is the reminder that everything works out better than I plan it if I let go. And I know that it's going to be okay. And so when I follow my calling, I follow my intuition, I follow what I need to be doing rather than the scarcity of like, well, I have to make it work this way. Then so much more is willing to come out. And I'll probably have to listen to that again a couple of times just to make sure I continue to believe it. But that's the biggest thing I've been learning lately. And I really wish I could go back 16 years ago and say that to myself. I don't know if I would have listened, but you know.
That is one of my core beliefs. Everything happens for a reason. And the universe does talk and show you in so specific ways. Mm-hmm. And I call what you just did with Tony, those are my micro moments. And I have them all the time where I just meet these random people by happenstance and I have these incredible moments, but they happen and they're very micro. Mm-hmm. But they change my way of thinking or perspective or life. And I hope that I leave an impression on them as well. It's just so interesting how the universe throws certain people in your path at the right time. And it's just, yeah, that's incredible.
Well, and the funny part is that we called in the grandmothers. We asked all of the women that came, I asked that all the mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers would come in and be with us, like all of our ancestors from the women in our families. And when I met Tony, she's in her 70s or 80s. She's been here since the early 80s. And I was like, oh, we're hosting a women's retreat. She goes, oh, come into my garden. Come look at the trees. Come wander around, whatever you want. She's like, I'm just gardening. And I was like, well, we're doing a healing retreat for women. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of all of you for being willing to look at yourselves and to work on yourselves. And that's so powerful. And then she tells me, I've been astral projecting since the 80s. And I was like, okay. She's like, oh, it seems that I was supposed to see you again. It's nice to see you again, Melanie. And I was like, thank you, Toad. I'm so glad. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. She's like, I think I called you in. Sounds great. I'm like, okay. I was a little worried because one of the girls was on someone's private property. And I was like, this could go one of two ways. Like someone could get really mad that she's standing next to a tree on their property. And instead she just invited us in. So it's just magic.
It is interesting how the world works, for sure. Mm-hmm. Well, as we round out our conversation, first of all, thank you for your time. You have been absolutely amazing. Why don't you take this chance to talk a little bit more about your business and let our audience know how they can connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name is Melanie Spring, so if you Google me, you'll find me pretty easily. We just launched our Speak with Confidence program where we have an online course and a sprint, a live sprint, where you can actually go through 8 weeks of building a talk, practicing a talk, working on a talk, marketing the talk and actually booking a talk in 2 months, basically. And so being able to help you step into the embodiment of the speaker you want to be. And the other piece of it is that we do women's healing retreats and couples and men's. My husband does that piece of it. But all of that's found on my website pretty easily, melaniespring.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Any last parting advice for all of those up-and-coming managers, leaders, entrepreneurs? Anything that you can give one last shout out to?
I would say look at the thing you say when you say, this is just how I am, or this is just how we do things, and see, is that true? Do you want that to be true? Because most of the time, it's a response to something that happened to you or has been happening to you. And do you really like it, or are you really not okay with it? That's the biggest thing I would say will help you take that next step in your journey.
And what is your next step? I mean, every 5 years, you're changing, you're growing. What is your next step?
This next step for me is that I'm building out a mastermind of people who are just powerful humans to get together and really build in this piece of them that, most of us speak all the time. We talk like this. You and I are speaking right now, but we don't really understand how we show up. And as I start watching other people on podcasts, or even just kind of like the defenses that people have, being able to help tear them down and be able to help them show the love that they truly have for the people they want to help is the key for me. So I'm really just enjoying being a brand muse, which is just being a creative muse for people to understand that they can step into themselves. And I think just going slower lately has been my key. And it's just been nice to slow down and really sit in myself and feel into the power that I have within myself, which helps other people see that in themselves.
Absolutely. Well, I know you say this to other people. I'm going to say it to you. You're a badass. So embrace it, be the badass, and keep on badassery. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Founders Hustle. I would absolutely love to know what resonated with you the most from today's guest. Go ahead and drop me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, if there's a future topic that you'd like me to touch on, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. But no matter where you're watching or streaming your favorite shows, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media. Tell a friend about this. I would love the support. But in the meantime, keep living, keep growing, and keep hustling, because you are meant to do great things. See you next week.